then cross live to journalist Neil Clark to discuss this now. Thank you very much, Mr. Clark, for joining us. First of all, let's talk about timing. President Assad has just announced that all military operations have been stopped in the country. Now, why is this call for his resignation happening now?
Well, I've argued all along that what the US and its allies really want here is regime change in Syria. And they're not really genuinely interested in ending the terrible situation that we've had there and having dialogue between both sides. And that's the reason it's happening today, because we've had 10 days ago, President Assad said that he was going to introduce a multi-party system in Syria. Today, he said that the operations against the opposition have ended. And yet, what do we get? Instead of the US saying, well done, that's good, that's a good move, we get these calls for him to step down.
So you're saying they're calling for him to step down now because he's willing to negotiate?
Exactly. I mean, it really blows the gaff, so to speak, on what the US really wants, and that is regime change. And why do they want regime change in Syria? Is it because of the regime's human rights record? Well, no, it isn't, because, of course, there's lots more regimes that have had worse records than Syria's. It's all about Syria's foreign policy.
Okay, you're talking, it's a bit more political then. Well, let's just check the list of those calling for this resignation. The US, the UK, France, and Germany, the same countries, well, with the exception of Germany, which pushed the UN resolution in Libya through to see the NATO campaign there unfold. Given this, what do you expect to follow in Syria?
Well, that speaks volumes. And what we're all about here is about getting rid of a government. And the great crime of the Assad regime in those countries' eyes really is its foreign policy. It's friendly with Iran, it has good links with Russia. And the aim of the game is to try to remove Assad from power and install another kind of regime in government there in Syria that would have a more pro-Western line.
Okay, in a few hours also we're expecting another major international blow for President Assad. We have the UN's human rights chief. He's preparing to call for the International Criminal Court to investigate Syria's lethal crackdown on protesters. Now, do you think that investigation could replace the need for any NATO military campaign?
Well, I think that any NATO military campaign would be absolutely outrageous in Syria. It would make the thing far, far worse, as we've seen from Libya. And I don't really think the cause for international criminal courts or indictments against President Assad is very helpful too. The big problem we've got with international justice, Tessa, is it's very biased. It's what we've had is a series of indictments issued against regimes which don't toe the line of the US and its allies. Slobodan Milosevic, Colonel Gaddafi, Charles Taylor. And the last thing we really want is to see yet another one of these leaders indicted. The two biggest war criminals at large are Tony Blair and George Bush. Let's have them indicted first, and then we can get on to President Assad.
Okay, following through on that logic, how much do you think we can trust the International Criminal Court on dealing with this particular investigation?
Not much at all, because it's shown all the way along that we don't really have a very fair, impartial system of international justice. The people who have been in the dock in the last 15 years or so have been leaders who have just got in the way of the US. What about the president of Georgia, who launched a war of aggression against the people of South Ossetia 3 years ago this very week? Why hasn't he been indicted? What about Tony Blair and George Bush? What about Bill Clinton for the bombing of Yugoslavia in 1999, which didn't have legality in international law? Nuremberg judgment said that the supreme international crime was to launch a war of aggression. People who did that are still at large. And so let's deal with these people first, the people who launched these wars against Iraq, against Yugoslavia, and then we can talk about President Assad.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your insight there. Neil Clark, journalist and broadcaster, thank you.